Hey everyone, how's it going? Tekno Tiger here. Hope you're doing well, and today I'm bringing you guys another Warframe guide. This time it's going to be on the newest addition to the family, Gara, or as I like to call her, Master Shredder. In this video I'll tell you exactly why I call her that, the setup that I like to use, a few different weapon and mod combinations, and at the end I'll show you guys some gameplay so you can see exactly how I like to use her, how I like to use her abilities, and what I think is the best way to use her abilities. Now, she recently came out in the newest patch, Plains of Eidolon, so if you haven't been able to log on and check it out, it's a pretty cool patch, but without further ado, let's get into her abilities. So Gara, like nearly every other Warframe, also has 4 abilities, and here we can see them. The first one is Shattered Lash. Lash out with a stream of shattered glass or hold for an arcing strike. The second is Splinter Storm. Gara's armor splinters into a maelstrom of shattered glass that slices enemies and impairs their weapons. Allies who contact the cloud are fortified against damage. Spectral Rage is her third ability, and it traps enemies in a carousel of mirrors, forcing them to attack visions of their true selves. Destroyed mirrors damage their attackers, as does the collapse of the carousel. Mass Vitrify is her final ability. It creates an expanding ring of molten glass that slowly crystallizes enemies who enter. When the expansion is complete, the ring hardens to block weapons fire. Using Shattered Lash will smash the ring and send razor-sharp glass flying outward. Now, all 4 of these abilities are pretty interesting in themselves. I tested it a lot with Mass Vitrify and Splintered Storm. Spectral Rage just didn't seem to work that well, especially on multiple enemies, and Shattered Lash just simply doesn't do enough damage. So Mass Vitrify is pretty good, but we won't really be using that too much in this build. We will use it to help on defense missions or help get someone up if they do get downed, but for the most part we won't really be focusing on dealing damage with Mass Vitrify. It's just not enough damage for higher level stuff. For lower level stuff, if you're doing defense on IO, this is a wonderful ability, and I'd recommend doing a range build if that is what you're looking for, but this is going to be for higher level content or soloing content, and that's why we're going to focus on Splinter Storm, her second ability. So her second ability, I'll tell you real quick exactly what all of these numbers are, because she does have 6 numbers that come with this ability, and then I'll get into the mods that I like to use on her. So the first number is the range in meters, and this simply tells you how far you can cast this ability. So you can cast this ability on yourself, allies, as well as enemies. The second is radius, and that's simply how big the storm is when it's cast on whichever target you choose. The third is damage per second, so if you cast it on yourself, on an enemy, or on an ally, it doesn't matter, all damage, or all enemies around them rather, will be damaged for 325 damage in this case for per second until it wears off or until they die. And of course we have duration here. Mine is almost up to a minute, which is definitely one of our focuses. We want this to last as long as possible so we're not constantly casting it and having a lot of downtime in especially for survivability, and you'll see exactly why, because her next one is damage reduction. Now, luckily you start off with, I think, 0.7 damage reduction, but if you add some strength you get all the way up to 0.9, which is the max damage reduction this ability will give you. So 90% damage mitigation with this ability. That is what we're abusing here, and that's why this ability is so insane, and that's why this frame is arguably one of the best melee classes in my opinion. She shreds and takes nearly no damage. She's a tank of a beast, and I'm sure no one knows it because everyone that I was watching play, either in streams or in games when I was leveling, were all using Mass Vitrify constantly, when actually the real secret to this frame is her Splinter Storm. The last one is damage multiplier. Kind of sad because I did some tests to see if this would affect my own damage, but sadly it only affects the enemy damage. So what I mean is, when I cast Splinter Storm on an enemy, they will take that damage per second, the enemies around them will take that damage per second, and then my damage onto them will be multiplied by 0.45 extra. And so sadly it's not a straight buff to you when you are wearing Splinter Storm, or at least not that I found, unless it's a bug or something. I wasn't doing more damage with this on. So that is this ability, and again, that's the main thing we're going to be focusing on is duration and damage reduction, or duration and strength rather, in this build. So I'll move on to the mods and a few different setups that I like to use as far as weapons. Here I'm going to break down the different mods that I like to use in Gara, and I'll show you guys a few different weapon setups that I like to use as well as my philosophy behind them. So maybe if you don't have the options that I have here, you can definitely swap them out and use whatever you like best, because customization is definitely key to min-maxing in this game. So as far as mods go, this is probably the part everyone's been looking forward to, so I'll tell you the stats on this real quick. My duration is 244, efficiency 100, range 106, and strength 130. Now 130 is going to be key. Now I looked and saw and checked if there was any wiggle room, and there's 4 mods that I definitely would not go without, but the rest is definitely optional. So let's go with, or 5, excuse me. The one that is not optional is definitely not really intensify per se, but the 30% strength. So like I was saying earlier, her ability that you're mainly going to be using, Splinter Storm, is affected by strength, and you need 29 strength. So this one gives you 30. It's perfect. If you want, you can swap it out, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But you're going to need 30 strength because that'll give you the 0.9 or 90% damage mitigation. And that is obviously very, very important, very good to have, so make sure you are at that 130 strength threshold whatever you do. So again, this is not necessary, but 130 strength is necessary. Now for the next few that we need, we're going to max out durability. I'm at 55 seconds, and you don't want to be casting your Splinter Storm too often because you'll have a lot of downtime, or maybe you'll forget. That's what I usually tend to do, is I tend to forget to recast it. So my duration is 55 seconds on Splinter Storm. You could definitely get that way over. You can get it over a minute for sure. I'm running Constitution, Prime Continuity, as you can see it's not even maxed, and Narrow-Minded, that's also not maxed. So like I said, there's a little bit more room for min-maxing. This is a 3-forma build, and this definitely has done the job for me, so I might keep it there. I might min-max a little bit more and bring it up to 4 or 5 forma to finish out the build. As you can see, we're not even using a last slot here. So you can put whatever you want there. The Exilus, you can put whatever you want there. I just simply put Drift, or Cunning Drift, excuse me, as well as Stretch to kind of mitigate the range loss from Narrow-Minded. You do want a little bit of range because enemies that are affected by your Storm's range, or the radius, will be kind of confused and maybe knocked off balance because it does disrupt them, and that is good. Adds a little bit of CC, a little bit of survivability, not to say that this frame needs it, and Vitality. I really like having Vitality, especially on this build, and I'll tell you why in just a second with my melee pick. And so you definitely have 2 slots here, 2 free slots, energy conversion as well as this last slot. I like energy conversion because you'll see when I use Mass Vitrify, I really like to have that extra damage, and that little bit of extra damage on my Shattered Storm is pretty nice too. I just really like using energy conversion. Again, you can swap this out for whatever you want. And so what I was saying earlier is you can swap out Intensify for Blind Rage if you feel like using Overextended instead of Stretch, and that would definitely be a pretty good option. Just want to make sure you keep your strength up there, and if you want more range, I think that would be the next best option because range is pretty cool on this Warframe. It does make her Mass Vitrify way better, so I definitely recommend trying that out if that's something you're looking for, a more of a range build. Oh, and let me not forget to go with the aura. So one other aura I was trying out is Corrosive Projection. Naturally, she does come with a backwards D alignment. So I was using Rejuvenation, swap that over to the line, so now you can use Corrosive Projection or Energy Siphon. I found when I was fighting in Plains of Eidolon, you know, the fighting is very intermittent, so I wanted to go with Energy Siphon just because I didn't know when my next energy orb was coming up. Kind of got unlucky a couple times, so I definitely stuck with Energy Siphon. If you are in a group and you're killing a lot of enemies really fast, you're not in the plains, then Corrosive Projection's another great option. So definitely pick between those, see what you like. But that is the mod setup. Let's look at some weapons that I like to use. And you'll see in the gameplay that I like to mainly stay very close range. Now that is because of her Shattered Storm. It doesn't have that very high of a range, so I like to stay close to enemies. Now that's where my melee weapon comes into play. You'll see I use my melee weapon a lot in these gameplay clips. And harkening back to the point I was making earlier is that I like to use Vitality because I am using Life Strike in this build. That's the only mod I'm going to go over. I just like Life Strike because I find it is pretty good. It has a lot of utility in this situation because you're not going to get one shot with 90% damage reduction, and the Life Strike just gives you that extra assurance because you are getting knocked down maybe 5-10 points at a time. So when you get down to about 300 health, I like to just throw in a channeling slash in there and it brings me back up. You know, just a little bit more survivability, and that's what I like about this build. As far as ranged weapons go, or as far as melee weapons go, you can use whatever you want, really. I just would recommend a larger range on your weapon. So War, Secure Electa is really good. Guandao, you know, any of the staffs, Atarak's a great choice. And so any of those would be really good. This is just what I happen to be using at the moment. Now, like I was saying, the combination of weapons is kind of key here. I found that especially in planes, the planes of Eidolon, you are going to want to have a close range, long range combination, you know, kind of balancing your situation out, because there is some pretty long range encounters in here and you don't really want to run around. At least that's for the time being until you do get your sky mount. You're definitely going to want something that can do both. A weapon setup that can do both, that is. So I am using the Axolotl Primes for my range in this build. You can definitely swap over to something close range if you're going to use a long range primary. Like a long range, you can go with Lex Prime or a Merlock, and for close range, maybe use like the Twin Grakatas or a shotgun variant. All those are great choices. And so for my close range, you'll see me using the Vacor Heck. I really like shotguns on this build, so all the shotguns are great. And again, if you want to swap it out for a long range, definitely try out snipers. They just got buffed in the Plains of Eidolon patch. Go check that out. They're really fun to use, and in the plains you can use them to their fullest. They don't have a weapon drop off until 600 meters, so definitely take advantage of that. If you can see the enemy, definitely try that. Take them down from as far range as you can. So that's what I would recommend. Now I'm going to get into the gameplay portion. I hope you guys liked the build so far and you know, kind of thought in line with my philosophies. If you didn't, if you found a build that might be better or thought of ways to improve this during the video, please leave a comment on ways to improve. I'm always looking for suggestions. Thanks guys, and I hope you enjoy the gameplay. Welcome everyone to the gameplay portion of the video. This is going to be the last part of the video. In this one, I'm hoping to show you guys exactly how effective all of her abilities really are and how tanky she is. But in this clip, I have a few lined up. This one in particular, I want to show you how tanky, but yet how really brittle this glass cannon can be. So as you see, I just get down there almost immediately, full to zero. I am in a boss fight. This is a sortie 80 to 100 mission. So these are pretty tough enemies. But as you can see, as soon as I get up and I slap on my Shattered Storm, I'm able to rock through all these enemies, not even dropping my shields. So the reality is, without your Shattered Storm on, you are just a piece of glass. You can get shattered very easily and taken down in no time. I've been one-shot a few times, but again, that's only without my second ability up. In the second clip, I wanted to show off how you can use your Mass Vitrify. I think it works really well here. It's similar to Frost's Snow Glow, but it's actually a little bit better in this situation because no enemies can even breach your Mass Vitrify. So it's really cool in that situation. If you don't want to use it for the CC portion, you can use it to block out all the enemies. And so I like it in a COD because the Infested don't really have range. Unlike in Hydron, they can be kind of annoying with all the Grineers shooting down onto you. I found this works really well here. So again, try it in your own. For against Infested, I think it's really strong. And for this last clip, of course, this is the patch that this Warframe came out on, so I definitely have to talk to you guys about the Plains of Eidolon. Of course, here I am doing a bounty. This is the highest level bounty, so I think it's level 50 to 60, so these enemies are no joke. And this clip, I just wanted to show off how tanky she is. I really like showing off how tanky she is. Most people play her incorrectly, in my opinion. They play her with Mass Vitrify as their main source of damage and their main ability use. But you know, people ask me how she is, and like I was saying, she is one of the best, if not currently the most tanky character, but one of the best melee characters in the game, in my opinion, especially with the CC and obviously the innate tankiness that does come with her second ability, Shattered Storm. As you can see there, I just got trampled by a level 60 Nox, and I didn't care. I just blew him away. This Warframe's insane. So I definitely think that you should, you know, pick her up as soon as possible. She is pretty easy to farm. You simply do the quest and you get her blueprint, and you can unlock her stuff by doing more stuff, more quests and bounties on the Plains of Eidolon, as far as I know. But sadly, the gameplay does have to come to an end, and so it does. Hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay. I did want to make sure you guys saw that there was a little bit of a dynamic between using axe stilettos for medium to long range, especially for the ballisticas, but as they got closer, I definitely wanted to bring out the heck and do some work with that, and it definitely puts in work. Really good for the plains right now. But as soon as your dojo finishes researching, as soon as they finish researching the Sky Arcwing, you won't really need to worry about weapon setup as much. Just simply go with what you want, because you can fly away if you want to use a sniper or a long range weapon, or you can get closer if you like using melee or close range weapons. So once that comes out, that'll completely negate whatever weapon choice you have. It's just based on preference at that point. This is just what I found to be very good right now. So if you guys did like the video, please make sure to leave a like. Helps me out a ton. If you guys want to see more content, subscribe. And if you guys, please tell me in the comments if you like this video. Do you like this Warframe? Have you tried this Warframe? And lastly, tell me what your thoughts on the Plains of Eidolon for those of you that have played it. If you haven't, make sure to hop in the game. It's been a blast so far. So thanks again, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all next time.